Hey, everybody, welcome back to Digital Connections, where we bring in expert advice to connect you with the services and resources to build a successful business and ultimately to create the life of your dreams. This show is for entrepreneurs, business owners, and anyone interested in running a side hustle to your current 9 to 5. One episode at a time, we help you build a successful business through amazing digital connections. I'm your host, Nancy Johnson, a marketing coach and strategist and owner of WSI Digital Connections, a full service digital marketing agency. On my way to running this company, I have found amazing resources that have helped us grow and they can help your business thrive too. Everyone needs a friend in digital marketing because digital marketing is about connecting people. So, my friends, just in case you didn't know, running a business is not a simple task. I really believe that all potential business owners should be screened before they are allowed to open a business to make sure that they love roller coasters. Because honestly, if you do not, I do not know how you make it. One thing that does help though is knowing your why. It is what will carry you through the times that you wake up and wonder, what the hell was I thinking? I will tell you my why real quickly. The other day I was speaking with a client and she is so passionate about her business. She has a certified leadership training program and she created it to transform how managers think about HR. She is fully driven to create a better world for all employees, and she does this through what she sells. When I see that passion that people have for what they do to help others, it is what drives me to create and implement amazing marketing plans. I know that it will help them reach the people that they want to reach, and more importantly, it will help connect the people they need and are looking for them. It is my contribution to the world. So, not everyone has this understanding of their why in their business. And I know that it is like moving forward in quicksand when you don't know that why. So, of course, I brought in an expert to help us out of the muck here. So, Marijke Kemble is the founder of Marijke Ocean, a coaching practice guiding leaders who are committed to their work being a source of personal and professional growth. Marijke worked in a corporate executive leadership role for over 15 years, first in financial services and then later as the president of a sales and marketing startup. In addition to being a certified Wayfinder coach, Marika has a bachelor's degree from Harvard University, where she took graduate level coursework in organizational behavior, Buddhism, and public policy. She is also a certified mindfulness meditation mentor and teacher, which she integrates into her coaching work whenever it is appropriate. She has an MBA. She's a mom of two young daughters, ages 6 and 9, and a recovering perfectionist. And she's also an office supply connoisseur. So, Marika, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much. It's really good to be here with you, Nancy.
All right, so let's start with the elephant in the room. Let's talk about this addiction to office supplies that you have.
Well, it's funny. I was just with some extended family over the weekend, and we were talking. She was asking everyone in the my aunt was asking everyone in the family to write down what we thought my 9-year-old would be when she grows up, and
Uh-huh.
like seal it in an envelope somewhere, like a time capsule. And
Ooh,
she
uh-huh.
said, "Marika, I'm pretty sure I thought you were going to do something with office supplies."
I love it.
So it's a long-standing passion of mine, this office
Oh.
supplies.
I understand, I understand, I have my collection too. I have, like, little gold clips paper clips.
Ooh,
I have
lovely.
to have them, but
Mhm.
and when I run out of them, I don't even know how I use so many of them because it's
Yeah,
not
or the
like I.
perfect pen, it doesn't have to be
Yes,
expensive, but it's gotta write smoothly. Yeah, yeah.
absolutely. Alright, well, let's
Mhm.
get down to business here.
Okay.
So, let's talk about your business, actually. Let's talk about, Marika Ocean. So what is that connection to the ocean all about?
Yeah, yeah. So, I was born in 1982. I was raised by, 2 hippies, I would say, and so my full name is Marika Ocean Joy, and that was my
Wow.
given name, and so actually, I had originally, I have the website marikaoceanjoy.com, and, uh, and that's really how I identify my that's my identity, that's who I am in my own mind, but I sort of decided that as a coach, I wasn't sure this, joy at the end. It's like, am I making a promise that everyone's always going to be happy here? I don't know if I agree with that.
Mm.
And so I dropped the joy, and now it's Marijke Ocean. So
Well, I would say it's a joy to talk to you at least,
thank
so there
you.
you
Thank you.
go.
As you
So
said,
y
lots of natural ups and downs in life, though. You can't, it's
Absolutely.
not bliss all the time.
No, no. So you were a banking executive and then the president of a sales and marketing startup. So how did you end up in coaching?
Yeah, yeah. Well, I worked for, over a decade in the financial services industry, and I enjoyed it, but I wasn't passionate about it, sort of as you were
Mhm,
describing in the introduction today. I liked the learning experience, I liked the different challenges, but I wasn't all that passionate about the subject matter of banking. What I was passionate about was that I was brought in typically when a division of the organization was going through a big change. And I loved to help people make sense of how this change impacted them and really
mm,
imagine a world in which they could thrive in the midst of whatever change was going on. So,
mm,
classic example was I managed our call center at one point, and it had for many years, for a decade, been the focus on the call center had been just efficiency, short call times. And we've all been on the phone with these call centers, right? Like trying to get you off the phone, that kind of thing. And there was a real
mhm,
transformation happening within the organization to say, we really need to listen to our customer. We need to take time. We need to be more consultative and relationship building on the phone. It was a really beautiful impetus. But the call center had been focusing full steam ahead on keeping their call times down and all these things for 10 years. So, how do you help people thrive in that big transition?
mhm,
So, I loved that. And ultimately, when I sort of found that the courage and the chutzpah, whatever it was, to say, I'm going to go off and do this, do something on my own, I it's felt like a natural fit to say, that's the essence of what I like to do.
mm,
And I think it's so
mhm,
important that people find like the essential genius of what you love to do
yeah, mm.
and find a way to express that more and more every day, professionally, personally, you name it, just let your life be infused with it.
Yeah.
And I'm really fortunate to, feel like I'm moving in that direction all the time.
Yeah, and I think coaching actually, because that was the same experience for me, right? There was this, piece of having to sell the services, right,
Mhm.
without the coaching piece of it, and that was, a difficult thing,
Mhm.
and as soon as I started coaching, it was like all this light came up, right, of, "Oh,
Yeah.
now I understand why they do what they do, and it makes sense why we're doing all of this," and helping
Beautiful.
them be able to see the larger picture as well, I think is huge when it comes to marketing.
Well, and I have to say, I mean, on a just what is interesting to me level, I tend to think that, most of us can figure out what we need to do, whether
Mm,
our goals are losing weight or marketing our business. Like we can Google some of the answers to these questions, but the
right.
bigger question is like, why don't we do what we know we need to do? And that just lights me up. That is fascinating, right? And that's where people don't just need us to give them an answer key to the test. They really need to understand more deeply, like, well, what might get in my way? What's the authentic way for me to market? All
Mhm.
these sorts of nuances that will make it possible for us to do what we might actually know we need to do.
Absolutely. Well, and I think it's also the answer that everyone has, right? They have the answers in their heads.
Yeah.
It's there. It's
Yeah.
just that sometimes you need to hear the right question in
Mm.
order to be able to answer the question.
Amen. Love
Yeah.
that.
So from what you've said, you are drawn to change and ultimately helping with change. So what kind of transformation is usually going on with your clients while they're working with you?
Yeah. Well, thinking about particularly the people that are starting businesses, the entrepreneur, right? What's often happening is one of two things, and the first is that I think a lot of people, it's actually really cool. I feel that a lot of people are sort of recognizing proactively that some piece of their suffering, right, might be created by the circumstances, like a difficult work environment, or, I want more freedom, or I want more control over my day. And I don't like the structure of sort of a traditional work environment, or, those kinds of things. So they sense that there's something about the circumstances, but there's also something about them that creates some of the difficulties in their lives, some of the things that they want to change. So I love working with entrepreneurs who sort of sense that, and in making this transition into running their own businesses, want to change not just the details of who's the boss and what am I exactly doing all day, but also who am I? Like, how am I showing up for my work?
Mm,
Um, and sometimes what happens is that we don't realize how much we are a part of creating our own difficulties. And so once we've started our business, we're like, "Oh gosh, you know what? I was burnt out and overworking in my corporate job. Now I've started my own thing and here I am burnt out and overworking again. Like, I think that might be partially me." Uh, you know? And so that sometimes people come because they've sort of caught that and realize, I have to change something about myself so I don't repeat this pattern,
mm,
and really turn this business into exactly what I dreamed it could be, right? Which is a source of freedom, a source of ease, a source of actually
mm,
even financial security, right? And so that's sort of people coming and looking for that. Like, how do I take care of my part in this,
mm.
creating the life that I want here, creating the business that I want, the professional experience I want, all of that.
I think it's really a stage of business ownership in a way, because I think that when you start out, you're so gung ho and you're so excited and you're like, look at what I did. I'm starting this thing and it's fantastic. And you're like, oh, I'm never going to get burnt out at this. I mean,
Right.
because I'm doing what I love. Right.
Yeah.
And then about 2 months, 3 months into it, you're like, uh oh, wait a second. What's going on here? And then
Yeah.
6 months into it, you're like, oh my goodness, this is ridiculous.
Right. It's like instead of hating your expense report, now you're hating your own bookkeeping and you're like, "What have I done? I thought I was getting away from all the bureaucracy."
Exactly. I
Yeah.
didn't realize
Yeah.
it was in my head.
Right. Right. Right.
All right. So, I understand that you see building a business and starting a business as really part of a bigger picture and not just finding something that you're good at, talking to your customers and doing a great job for them. So what does that bigger picture look like for you?
Well, first of all, I mean, those things like, finding something you're good at, working with your customers, doing a good job for them. Like, I mean, that's the table stakes, right? We all have to be ready to show up and do that. And that's hard. I also don't want to minimize that, has its own challenges. But what for me, this invitation to be an entrepreneur, this invitation to be a small business owner and engage in those beautiful things of offering a gift to somebody and whatnot. To me, that's also an invitation to grow significantly as a person. And really, it's a chance to not just work towards achievement in a like checking the boxes kind of way, like just gathering outside success, but actually becoming a fuller expression of yourself. I mean, I think
Mm,
that it can be such an actually like a place of huge expansive growth for us
agreed. Hmm.
personally, as well as
Hmm.
professionally, as well as all those other traditional measures of success that can come along with it. And so that's something that I feel like if people wanna answer that invitation, it's exciting, it's thrilling.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and I think a lot of people don't realize that's what they're signing up for when they
Mm. Yeah,
business.
yeah, because we really will we'll bring so much of our patterns, like whatever patterns we learned about achievement and work and effort and, um uh, completion and perfection and relationships, whatever patterns we learned about that and then did for however long, a decade or 2 decades in our professional lives, we're bringing ourselves into our new business. So we're going
Mm,
to get to see those patterns all over again. Except we do have this like, wonderful opportunity to choose really all the aspects of it,
mm.
and that's exciting.
It is. Yeah, agreed.
Yeah.
That's the fun part of the roller coaster, just as soon as
Yes.
you get
Yeah.
to the crest, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So what's some of the turmoil and struggle, that when you left your corporate job,
Mhm.
and started your coaching company, is that something that you dealt with? I know it was something I dealt with when I
Mhm.
left mine.
So I left 2 corporate jobs in a sense.
Mm,
I left
mhm.
this corporate job in the financial services industry, and I left that, um, I left a good enough job because I thought there was possibility of something really great. And so I have this one experience of leaving something that wasn't particularly like toxic or painful or difficult. It was actually a really good job. It's kind of like I'm sure some of your listeners will relate to, you know, le- wanting to leave something or maybe leaving something where everyone around looks at you and they're like, "You're crazy. Like
Yeah.
you were on a shooting star there. You were, you had a great job. Like what are you doing?" Right? So I left first in that situation. In the second, corporate career I had, I was working in more of a small business setting. I mean, we were 80 people, when I left, so not a tiny business, not a micro business, but, 8 or 9 years young in the startup space and pretty successful, growing very rapidly, and that job had really become very I would say there was sort of like a rock bottom feeling when I left that job of like, "Whoa,
Mm,
I need to recover from this job." It
mm,
was
mhm,
much more intense. It was much more stressful. It really challenged I found myself challenged to really listen to my intuition in that job. It was very difficult for me to hear clearly and honor clearly my yeses and nos about the right way to do things. And so there were a lot of difficulties in sort of a recovery period, I would say, in leaving that job. And so
mm,
I feel like actually I think two common ways that people end up leaving sort of a career track, and I've lived them both, um, and and I'm grateful for them both. I
sure.
wouldn't
Mhm,
I wouldn't, I'm not sure I would I think the difficulties in the second, corporate career track that I had actually enabled me to, take some risks as an entrepreneur that
mm,
I'm not sure I would
mhm,
have taken otherwise. So
yeah,
we need both a dream of what can be and a little suffering to change, like, we need both
yeah,
those things. And so
yeah. Well, that term, golden handcuffs, it comes
Mhm.
it comes from there's a reason for it,
Yeah.
because that is ultimately what happens to you when you get too comfortable and when you don't have a little bit of that pain to go, this is. And, I loved what you said about, there was that recovery period. There's a period of learning to trust your own voice again,
Mhm.
because I think like you said, you just kind of shut that down and you're not able to hear it when you're not on the right path. And, once you get out of it, trying to listen again it's hard.
Oh, I love the way you said that. That's spot on.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
in a way, it's sort of like you hear about bones that break, and then when they're mended, they're actually, like, stronger than they were before.
Ah,
I
yes.
feel that in some ways, it's like losing your voice and then having to reattune to it. You end up having a relationship with that inner voice, that in a way is stronger, more intimate, more vibrant
It's
because you've
interesting.
had to work with it. They say the same thing, by the way, about customer relationships and customer loyalty, that oftentimes our customers are even more loyal if they've had an issue with us and we've repaired it successfully than if we've never had an issue with us. They've never had an
That is
issue
so
with us
true.
before. It's like a real
Yeah.
trust building exercise. And we have to build trust with our inner voice too.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
For sure. So is there a top piece of advice that you would give to someone starting their own business after working in a corporate world?
Yeah. Well, I do think that that adage of slow down to speed up, has a lot
Mhm.
of truth. If you, well, I was gonna say if you have the luxury of being able to go slowly, I recommend it, so the side hustle is a great example of that, although I'm
Mm.
laughing as those words are coming out of my mouth because there's, a famous, uh, Zen teacher, meditation teacher, mindfulness teacher was asked, like, "Well, you say we should meditate for 20 minutes a day, but like, what if we don't have time to meditate for 20 minutes a day? Then what would you recommend?" And he's like, "Well, if you don't have time to meditate 20 minutes a day, I would recommend you meditate for an hour." Like, like, so like maybe even if it feels like you don't have time to slow down, I still recommend you slow down. Slow down extra. Um, so I think slowing down to speed up is really the name of the game, and what I mean by slow down is not necessarily, like, doing, uh I don't even mean, like, making slower decisions necessarily,
Mhm.
but I mean making sure that you have pauses, that you are reflecting on what are my intentions behind my decisions? What's that
Mhm.
why behind what I'm doing or what I'm recommending or the person I partner with or like don't just look for quick answers and slap them on your business and expect that they're going to work. Do it mindfully. So
Mhm.
that's one thing, but the other thing that sort of goes hand in hand with this is I think having a plan ahead of time about how you're going to engage with, let's say, failures, or we could call them setbacks, surprises, you know, really before they will exist. They're going to
Mm.
happen. It's not necessarily a sign that you're wrong or bad or you made the wrong decision to start a business. So having a plan before they occur about how am I going to relate to my failures, my supposed
Mm.
failures, my setbacks is a really powerful preparatory step. And you can really do this anytime. You don't have to do this before you start, but I think it's a kind of a super skill.
Agreed. Yeah, and I think it's almost that resilience that is necessary as an entrepreneur, as a business owner. You have to have that resilience, but I think thinking about it before you have to leverage it is important. So important.
Because once you've experienced it, you're gonna have a whole normal set of reactions of, like, wanting to avoid it maybe or wanting to feeling like, "Oh my gosh, I'm, doubting now a lot of
Yes.
things," all these
Mhm.
whatever your natural pattern is when you respond to something like that, a setback, it's gonna show up. So it's good to sort of remind yourself ahead of time, like, okay, this is gonna happen. Here's what I need. Here are the reminders I need. Here's how the support I need. Here are the tools I need at my fingertips when it happens.
Yeah, yeah. I will say, I think one of the best tools that I've found for that, I think you and I have talked about this, is positive intelligence and
Mm,
that whole concept of, the saboteurs in your head and how you access a different, your sage powers in order
yes.
to actually deal with them, and that sounds so woo woo coming out of my mouth, but it isn't. It really isn't.
Yeah.
You start practicing it and you realize it is just about resilience and it's just about how you talk to yourself, really, ultimately.
One of the amazing things that I'm so delighted has happened in the last 20 years is a lot of things that sound woo from a mindfulness perspective are getting scientific explanations in the form of development of the neuroscience field. Functional MRIs and a whole bunch of other tools have really expanded that. So, the positive intelligence system really is teaching us to understand typical voices that exist from different parts of our brain.
Mm.
And we are socially, but also just from a survivor perspective, taught to think that the negative voices are more valid than the positive voices. So that's what keeps us, safe from really dramatic crisis, life or death situations. And so they're prioritized in a way. And you're exactly right. We need to remember what helps us thrive when we don't have an actual survival threat. We have a difficulty along the way, but we're going to make it. we don't need that scary negative talk to dominate. We need that problem solving, encouraging, connection minded talk to take center stage. So, what are the tools to keep that
Yeah.
happening, to choose that when you've hit a stumbling block? It's really important.
It is, it is. And I love what you said about the time as well, because that is and it goes right back to understanding your tools sometimes takes you time to
Mhm.
understand what those are, and you need to give that to yourself. If you don't have the time, ask yourself why you don't have the time, and
Yes.
then find it because you
Yes.
really, really need it. You're gonna
Yeah,
have more of it in the end if you do.
absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I often remind people that, we think we're managing our time and how are we fitting everything in the day. And there's an element of that on a really practical level. I love to throw some post-it notes and calendar pages at that problem for sure. But the other thing is that I think it becomes even more true as entrepreneurs that we are managing our energy even more so than we are managing our time. So,
Yeah.
me being burnt out is a huge cost to my business because I don't do the things I know I need to consistently do, right? And so I'm always like taking a pulse on what's my energy, what do I need a little more, where do I need a little more recovery, where do I need a little bit more intensity where do I need to support my creativity so that my energy supports my business, not just the hours in the day.
That is such a good point that it is literally you could almost bring it down to the dollar, how
Mhm.
much it costs your company,
Oh,
your
yeah.
own burnout. Mhm.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and I would add, like, it's the burnout for sure, but even, like, if I have a failure and I, like, am wallowing in, like, poor me,
Yeah. Yeah.
like, for 2 days or a week or, how long does
Yeah.
that last before you snap out of it? That has a huge cost too, so
Yeah.
back to
Yeah.
that sort of idea, like, have a plan for how you handle those disappointments.
Yeah, and how many opportunities you miss when your mindset is there and not where it needs to be. Yeah,
Exactly.
completely. So what for your clients, what does success look like?
Yeah, it's great. Great question. So, I think that a lot of my clients end up starting their own business because they want a sense of freedom. They want a sense of ease and flow and kind of integrity, like where they're choosing to spend their times in places that are in integrity for them about what's important. And so a big part of what they get is a sense that they do have freedom, which doesn't mean that they don't have responsibility. They actually sort of end up feeling even stronger sense of responsibility, but it's in all the sort of best ways. It's like I'm feeling responsibility for constantly learning or, constantly discovering this sort of essential gift that I have to offer the world. And in my experience, it's both the clients, but also their family, the people that are in their network really start to benefit from that because I believe, and I'm paraphrasing a quote from a really beautiful minister, um, African American minister that preached in San Francisco in the 50s. But he sort of says like the world needs more people that have come alive. And I think when my clients start to really come alive, come into that sort of their essential gifts, come alive, their sense of constantly evolving and growing comes alive. It benefits not just them, their clients, their family, their loved ones, whoever that extended network is. Everyone benefits from more of us coming alive in that way.
Mm, that's beautiful. I love that.
Yeah.
So, we've got all kinds of business owners in our digital connections community. Is there a particular group or subset of entrepreneurs that you work with most often?
Well, I think I work a lot with people who have some shared uh, background experiences that I have. So,
Mm.
I mean, generally, like high achievers, that sort of idea that it's like, oh, I can see now that my perfection got me pretty far in life and now it's like hurting me too, right? So
Mm.
that's a common theme. um, people that have worked in the sales and marketing world, B2B sales, that kind of thing are certainly frequently clients. Parents are often clients. So people who are
Mm,
interested in they're working with me to grow their businesses, but they also have this element of, having um having children and working through what it means to have this multidimensional life. So those are some
mm,
common themes, but I think the connection is always this longing for more freedom and integrity in their professional life, and deciding to go after that in an entrepreneurial way.
mhm,
And
mhm.
sometimes it starts out as a side hustle. Sometimes it starts out, sometimes it's a full-time thing that's already in progress, but that's a pretty common, uh, you know, chord
Y
that connects
y
everybody.
Yeah, I would say I wish that I had had, coaching like this. I wish I had had it before I started my business, right? It would have
Mhm.
been awesome to be able to start on that ground level, rather
Yeah.
than, I suppose there are reasons I had to learn the lessons I learned, but,
Yeah,
you know
right. I know, I know. It is, I mean, that's I think about that too, right? It's like when I hired my first coach, compared to now, or now I'm like, "Oh, I love having a coach alongside as like a guide for whatever difficulty I'm going through, or whatever new learning sort of horizon I'm working on. But it is interesting to look back to the times when, like, we didn't invest in the support, that we now
Yes.
know we need, right?
Mhm, mhm, or we
Mhm.
were scared of it too. I
Yeah,
remember a time when I was like, "A coach? I'm not sure, do I need a coach?
yeah.
Do I," you know, and now I wouldn't even dream of not having a dozen coaches in my
Right,
life.
right. I was talking to a friend, and a colleague recently, and, she was saying, she's like, "I think things are really changing." Like, I don't know, it just started to click for people, like, well, if a professional athlete has a coach, like, if I wanna be the best, if I wanna be my best, why wouldn't I have a coach, right? Like,
Yeah,
um,
yeah, mhm.
so I think it's a nice evolution that's happening for people.
Absolutely. So, if someone, speaking of coaching, if someone heard themselves today being described, if they heard, the situations that they're in now, how do they get in touch with you? How do they learn about your services more as well?
Yeah. So a great way to learn a little bit more about me is marikeocean.com. So that's MARIJKEOCEAN.com. And if somebody's just curious and wants to understand, like, how would coaching work and how would it fit in? And is coaching really what I need right now? Or do I really need, another kind of guidance or advice or piece of knowledge? I'm happy to kind of kick the tires on that question with people. And I'll be the first one to say, I don't think this is where I would start right now.
Mm, mhm.
I don't think coaching's where I'd start, if that's what makes sense. And so if people want to schedule an explore coaching session with me, it's totally free. We'll take 30 minutes and kind of see where they're at, and see if coaching's a fit.
Mhm.
That's They can do that on my website. I also do have a tool specifically about a strategy that I think is really playful and a fun way to turn towards our disappointments and our setbacks and sort of
Oh, cool.
learn from them. And
Uh-huh.
so, I think we'll share that link in your show notes probably, or
Yes.
I'll
Mhm,
make sure you
mhm.
have it. So if people wanna download that, they can get a copy of that tool, and join my mailing list and hear sort of tips and tricks. I send out something every Tuesday with sort of tips and tricks around these mindset issues and all the typical things that we're trying to figure out as professionals and as entrepreneurs. So that's another great way to stay in touch and just learn more.
Fantastic. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, wonderful. Well, Marika, thank you so much for stopping by. It has been an absolute pleasure, and for sharing all of your information with us. It's just awesome. So, thank you.
Thank you, Nancy. So fun to talk with you.
Yeah. All right. Well, we're just about out of time, but we're going to give you guys a digital marketing tip of the day. And my tip today actually comes in the form of a request. So I want to know what you, my listeners, want to learn more about in the marketing and digital marketing world. What haven't we covered, and what will help you in your business building endeavors? If you send me your suggestion, I'm going to give you a copy of one of my most beloved marketing tools, the One Page Marketing Plan by Alan Dibb. This is a fantastic guide to building a highly functional and creative marketing plan that will connect better with the people you want to find and ultimately that want to find you. All you have to do is visit tinyurl.com/Nancy J. That's NANCEEJ, and send me an email from that page. Let me know your suggestion, and I will send you a copy of this amazing book if you're one of the first 10 to contact me. All right. A huge thank you to my guest today, Marijke Kemble. You can find Marijke at marijkeocean.com. That is spelled MarijkeOcean.com. Please make sure to follow us and subscribe, like us wherever you get your podcasts. You can find this episode and previous shows along with contact information for all our guests and for me at our website at digitalconnections.us. Have a great week and tune in next time for another amazing digital connection for your business.